A difficult and tragic day as the Israel Defense Forces announced the names of 10 fallen soldiers who died in Gaza, as intense fighting continues throughout the Strip and especially in the Rafah area. Following their deaths, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated that there was no alternative other than to ensure the goals of the war and pledged to defeat Hamas. The IDF on Sunday cleared for publication the names of IDF soldiers who were killed in Gaza early Saturday morning in a serious incident in the southern Gaza Strip. 21-year-old Yakir Yaakov Levi, 21-year-old Eliyahu Moshe Zimbalist, 19-year-old Itai Amar, 21-year-old Stanislav Kostarev, 20-year-old Or Blumovitz, and 20-year-old Yeshaya Gruber, all from the Combat Engineering Corps' 601st Battalion. On Saturday night, the IDF announced that 23-year-old Captain Wassem Mahmoud had been killed as well.
בשעות הבוקר המוקדמות, עם השלמה של ההתקפה על החלק הצפון-מערבי של השכונה, כוחות חיל רגלים, שריון והנדסה מחטיבה 401 נכנסו בשיירות רכבי קרב משוריינים למרחב על מנת להתייצב בקווי המגע. לפי המידע שבידינו, בשלב זה, באחד הכלים ההנדסיים בשיירה אירע פיצוץ עז שנגרם ככל הנראה מאמצעי חבלה שהוטמן במרחב או כתוצאה מירי של טיל נגד טנקים. בתוך הכלי המשוריין היו 8 הלוחמים שנהרגו.
The incident is still being investigated by the IDF. In addition to these deaths, the army announced the deaths of 2 soldiers killed in the northern Gaza Strip, 49-year-old Ilon Weiss and 28-year-old Eitan Koplovich, and another soldier, Yair Reutman, who succumbed to his wounds sustained last week. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu mourned the soldiers' deaths, but pledged to continue the war until Israel's objectives were met.
על אף המחיר הכבד והמטלטל, עלינו לדבוק במטרות המלחמה. השמדת היכולות הצבאיות והשלטוניות של חמאס, השבת כל חטופינו, וידוא שעזה לא תהווה עוד איום על ישראל, והשבת תושבינו בבטחה לבתיהם, הן בצפון והן בדרום.
Meanwhile, intense fighting continued throughout the Strip, especially in the Rafah area. This as the IDF announced a tactical pause of military activity for humanitarian purposes that will take place daily from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. until further notice, from the Kerem Shalom crossing to the Salah al-Adin road and further north. The IDF clarified that this would not impact its military operations in Rafah against Hamas. And the Israel police recently released new video footage showing the special forces' raid on a house in Gaza to rescue hostage Noah al-Gamani. The footage includes sounds of explosions and gunfire as the police work to secure al-Gamani and the other hostages. Al-Gamani, along with Almog Meir Jan, Andrei Kozlov, and Shlomi Ziv, were among the 4 hostages rescued by Israeli forces from Hamas captivity on June 8th. Al-Gamani gained significant recognition as one of the hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th. Footage of her abduction, where she was taken into Gaza on a motorcycle while pleading for her life, garnered international attention. Her boyfriend, Avinatan Ol, was marched into Gaza alongside Al-Gamani. He remains in captivity. Let's take a look at the clip.
הכל בסדר, לוקחים אותך הביתה. לוקחים אותך הביתה. את בטוחה, אנחנו לוקחים אותך לאוטו. יש פה נמצא על הנישה. לוקחים אותך הביתה. שלנו. שלנו. אנחנו חבר'ה מהימה ומהשב"כ, לוקחים אותך הביתה. אנחנו מאוד מתרגשים שאת פה ואנחנו גאים לך.
אני נורא מתרגשת, אני פשוט נורא מפחדת מהדרך.
הכל בסדר.
And Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh has said today that Hamas is ready for a comprehensive deal, though fell short of responding to the Israeli and U.S. proposal already on the table. And tensions in the north are at a high point as Hezbollah fired dozens of missiles into Israel this past week. Joining us now to discuss the latest security situation on day 254 of the Gaza war is IDF General Yaakov Amidrol. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with Gaza, a tragic day today with many deaths reported. What is the Israeli military strategy in Gaza now? Everyone was waiting for the Rafah operation, but what is the next step?
The next step is to move to another stage. After dismantling the infrastructure of Hamas and killing its commanders in Rafah, the next stage will be the one which will take a long time, probably a year, to clean up Gaza from all the remnants of Hamas. We have an experience. In 2002, it took us 4 years in the West Bank. In Gaza, it will be shorter, but it is a very long operation during which the IDF will go in and out based on intelligence with many forces inside whenever it will be needed to destroy and to kill those which remain in Gaza and have any kind of level of capacity to fight Israel.
You know, the IDF is operating throughout the Strip, even in areas that they've already cleared. So is progress, truly being made? And what is your assessment? I mean, when will Israel be able to say that they've achieved victory over Hamas?
I don't know, what does it mean, victory? Victory is a very peculiar word. It's not the Second World War in which the fighters of the West and the East combined together in Berlin and finished the war with a victory picture. Here, victory means that all the settlements around the Gaza Strip, what we are calling Otef Gaza, will flourish, will be stronger in big numbers, and Hamas will not have the ability to threat or to make any manipulations in the border. And at the same time, the IDF will be free to walk inside Gaza Strip like the IDF is doing today in Area A in the West Bank. And this is the level of victory that can be achieved. We are not going to eliminate all the members of Hamas, and people might believe in Hamas in the future, but they will not have any military capacity to attack Israel. When we first time went to the hospital, the main hospital in Gaza Strip, it took us, Shifa Hospital, it took us almost 2 months, and we did it with 2.5 divisions inside Gaza. The next time that we came after pulling out from the north, when we understood that they are regrouping in Shifa Hospital, it took the forces 30 minutes to reach the hospital, and we did it with 2.5 battalions. And this is the difference between having control on the ground and not having control on the ground. So it will be a slow process during which we will clean Gaza from all the remnants of Hamas. Mm-hmm. It's not one day and it's over. It's a long...
And I do want to ask you as well, as this continues in Gaza, I do want to touch quickly upon the north. We're seeing an escalation on the northern front. What is your assessment there? I mean, Israel cannot allow the entire northern part of the country to become uninhabitable as it is today.
First of all, I don't see the escalation. Both sides are very cautious not to escalate. Yes, they succeeded to make us evacuating 80,000 Israelis from the north. By the way, almost the same number was evacuated from the south part of Lebanon, even more people. We killed almost 350 members of terrorists of Hezbollah during these operations, and we eroded part of the tactical military capabilities of Hezbollah. But the main problem, the main issue, is the fact that we are not in a position to call back all the citizens, to tell them to go back to live back in the north, and that might lead to a war. In spite of the fact that both sides do not want the war, the situation is unbearable, and Israel might find itself in a corner in which Israel will have to go to war to achieve at the end a situation in which people can go back to their homes in the north, something that they cannot do today.
Well, let's hope they'll be able to find a diplomatic solution. General Yaakov Amidol, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you very much.
And on the northern border, Hezbollah continues to fire missiles into northern Israel from southern Lebanon as the IDF struck numerous Hezbollah terror targets overnight. This past week has seen a major escalation, raising concerns for a full-out war in the north. The details in the following report. Israel Emergency Services spent the weekend battling a string of fires in northern Israel caused by dozens of missiles fired from southern Lebanon by the Iranian terror proxy Hezbollah. According to data from the Israel Nature and Parks Authority, nearly 13,000 acres have been scorched in the Upper Galilee and the Golan Heights since the start of the war due to the missile fire. Overnight, Israel Air Force fighter jets struck numerous Hezbollah terror targets, including a munitions warehouse and military building in the Itaron area, as well as other terrorist infrastructure and a military structure in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah has been firing missiles into Israel on a near daily basis since October 7th, but the last few days have seen a major escalation. The attacks have displaced tens of thousands of Israelis, many of whom have not been able to return home since October. The residents that do choose to stay face a harsh reality.
It's very hard to be here. Every boom that I'm here make me freeze. I'm hoping for better days, but now I'm stick to my place and I'm not gonna leave here. I'm here to stay.
We are on the verge of war over here in the north, which we didn't initiate, we didn't want. We have no business in Lebanon. I wish I could go to Lebanon as a tourist. I wish there was peace with the Lebanese. We are dealing with enemies that want me out of here and maybe even want me dead.
And now a new survey from the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research reveals that 3/4 of Palestinians are satisfied with Hamas and its tactics. Hamas received a 75% satisfaction rating from respondents, a 5-point increase since March. Over 80% of Palestinians believe the October 7th attack brought the Palestinian issue back into regional and international focus after years of neglect. And about 2/3 of respondents thought Hamas was right to launch the attack. The survey polled 1,570 Palestinian adults in Gaza and Judea and Samaria between May 26th and June 1st. And joining us now to discuss these findings, we have our editor-in-chief, Maayan Hoffman, who has been following PCP-SR polls for several years. Welcome, Maayan.
Thanks for having me.
So what's your overall take on this new poll?
Look, Lidar, you highlighted a lot of really important data already as you introduced the survey, but there is so much more that is in this survey that I think is important. And the number one thing is that nearly half of the Palestinians believe that Hamas is going to win this war. There's a really strong belief that they're going to stay in power when Israel leaves Gaza. And I think that's actually striking because if you look at it, more than half of Gazans and 2/3 in the West Bank say they would actually prefer that Hamas be the one to stay in power over any other scenario. And that's important. It's important for a few reasons. Number one is because if you think about it, there's no day after plan right now, or at least not one that we know of. And so the day after plan is being built by Hamas and being built by the Palestinians, and they're saying Hamas is our day after plan. Number two, if you look at the survey, there is very little support for the Palestinian Authority. The United States has repeatedly said it plans to helicopter in some version of the Palestinian Authority, maybe a repaired or a better version of the Palestinian Authority. But right now, 85% of Palestinians polled in this survey said that they are dissatisfied with the PA, and 90% want President Mahmoud Abbas to resign. So when you look at that, and what's even more striking, and I didn't really see this highlighted, but if you start to go through the very extensive survey, you also will find that 75% of the Palestinians polled actually said they are also not at all open to any kind of Arab peacekeeping force, meaning that these ideas of bringing in from the UAE or Bahrain or some other Arab entity, Egypt, Jordan, to help maintain security, the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank are not interested in that scenario.
So that's some very interesting statistics. I mean, do you think that it's because the Palestinians believe they're winning, believe that Hamas will eventually emerge victorious, that they're able to make these kinds of statements? I mean, Nearly 9 months since October 7th, with all the destruction that Israel's caused in Gaza, are we still seeing such a hardline stance? It's interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that we are, and it actually plays into the hands in some ways of the Palestinians, of the Gazans, when we go in and we just flatten Gaza. It builds a narrative for them, right? They're winning the narrative war. We look like we're causing a humanitarian crisis. That helps them. And as you said in the beginning, it brings them to the forefront. People are saying, oh, we care now about the Palestinian issue. But there's also more. There is actually an increase in the number of Palestinians who are interested in an armed struggle. In fact, an 8% increase from just a survey that was released 3 months before. And that means that nearly a third of Palestinians are actually saying they believe in the armed struggle. And if you start to unpack that, the other thing that you will see when the data starts to break down is that the majority of those who are interested in this armed struggle are actually located not in Gaza, but in the West Bank. And what that actually means is that they're not getting flattened, right? They're not living in Gaza. Their homes aren't being destroyed. So they're becoming more and more radicalized. We have 500,000 Israelis, almost, living in Judea and Samaria. And what that means is that there could at some point be some kind of uprising, another October 7th, God forbid, or something similar, coming out on yet another front. You spoke today, we're fighting in Gaza. We're fighting on the north, the West Bank, Judea and Samaria is yet the third front.
And is there, a solution to any of this? I mean, really, it seems kind of like an impossible situation that we're seeing.
Well, if we had the solution, I think we would all be very happy today. But of course, we don't know what the solution is. But what I can tell you is this. I think that, number one, we are seeing that Hamas is kind of coming toward the idea of a ceasefire. We did have some statements today by Hania that were indicating that perhaps he would be interested in discussing the ceasefire agreement that the United States has put forward. So there is a little hope on that front. But the other side is if you have to look at this concept of a two-state solution. You've got the Americans, you've got countries around the world, the United Nations, supporting the idea that we will have some kind of two-state solution when this ends. But the truth of the matter is that for more than a decade, the Israelis have actually not been supportive of a two-state solution. Mainly, they do not agree that there is a partner for peace. And now on the other side, what you find in this poll is that there is a drastic decrease in the number of Palestinians who are interested in a two-state solution as well. In fact, there was a 30% decrease in just the Gazans that were polled alone. So anything more than a ceasefire, slim to none.
Very interesting statistics. Thank you, Mayan, for this analysis.
Thank you.
And nearly 9 months since the start of the Gaza war, American professors have taken a pulse on how Christians view the Jewish state, especially evangelicals who tend to be more pro-Israel than Christians of other denominations. Do they support Israel's efforts against Hamas? Well, Mayan Hoffman has more.
What do evangelical Christians think about Israel as the country continues its war against Hamas in Gaza? A recent survey examined American Christians' attitudes towards Jews, Judaism, Israel, and the Israel-Hamas conflict. The study compared mainline, evangelical, and Catholic communities and found that the belief that God's covenant with the Jewish people remains intact today significantly increases support for Israel. Respondents with this belief are nearly 3 times more likely to support the state. Overall, 40% of American Christians support Israel, while 8% support the Palestinians. Among evangelicals, support is strongly influenced by age and biblical knowledge, with 47% expressing strong or moderate support for Israel. Additionally, 58% of evangelicals believe the Jewish people have a right to the land of Israel based on God's covenant with Abraham. Regarding the current conflict, 49% of all respondents blame Hamas for the war, 8% blame Israel, and 39% blame both sides equally. In response to the October 7th Hamas attack, 45% of Christian respondents view Israel's actions as mostly justified, while only 11% see Hamas's attacks as justified. Anti-Semitism is a significant concern for 58% of all Christians surveyed, with mainline Protestants and Catholics expressing the most worry. Among evangelicals, 54% are seriously concerned about anti-Semitism, with 23% describing the highest level of concern. The survey was conducted by Dr. Moti Imbari and Dr. Kirill Buman, and questions were asked in March.
And as we all know, news in Israel is never straightforward or lacking. And so the president and CEO of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Yael Eckstein, gives us the 3 highlights of this week's news stories. Let's take a look.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are 3 things that you need to know about the Holy Land this week. Number 1, this week, the Jewish people celebrate the holiday of Shavuot, or in English known as Pentecost. This year, Shavuot is bittersweet because the southern Israel city of Be'eri, which is on the Gaza periphery, every year they have a huge celebration for Shavuot. And this year, they weren't able to. And so this Shavuot, the people of Israel are really standing in solidarity with the community of Be'eri. Number 2. Earlier this week, we saw God answering our prayers that after 8 months, the IDF and the Israeli police miraculously freed 4 Israeli hostages. They brought home from Hamas captivity in Gaza Shlomi Ziv, Andrei Kozlov, and Almag Meir J, along with Noah Argamani. This successful rescue operation happened on Saturday morning, and we continue to pray for the remaining 77 hostages alive, still being held in Gaza by Hamas terrorists, and the return of 43 additional bodies who remain captive. And number 3, in some incredible archaeological news coming out of Jerusalem, archaeologists in the city of David were amazed to find a small gold ring set with a precious stone apparently made for and worn by a little boy or girl who lived there in the city of David during the Hellenistic period some 2,300 years ago. The Jewish people are intrinsically connected to this land. We see it in the Bible, we see it in archaeology, and we see it everywhere we walk today. Well, there you have it, friends. That was 3 things that you need to know about Israel this week. Join me here, same place, same time next week for more updates from the Holy Land.
And archaeologists in Jerusalem have made a significant discovery, uncovering British royal and nobility coats of arms on the walls of a building dating back to the early 20th century. ILTV's Rachel Safdie has the report.
In a groundbreaking archaeological discovery, historical emblems, including those of King George V and the founder of the iconic Guinness Brewery, have been unearthed in Jerusalem. The emblems were found in a historic hospital founded in 1882 in Jerusalem that played a crucial role in treating eye diseases in the Holy Land during its era and served patients from across the Middle East. Recently, researchers Shai Halevi and Michael Trinan from the Israel Antiquities Authority decoded and identified 18 out of 23 coats of arms adorning the hospital's walls, revealing ties to British nobility who generously supported the expansion of the hospital at the time. The researchers were also able to decode the messages left by these elite British families, shedding light on the building's rich history. Dr. Amit Rehm, Jerusalem regional archaeologist, said that these walls continue to talk to us and reveal Jerusalem's history. The building, which is situated overlooking the Hinnom Valley near Mount Zion and the old city walls, was transformed from a 20th century hospital into the renowned Jerusalem House of Quality, an art and culture exhibition center. Israel Antiquities Authority Director Eli El-Kusido said, "Every stone in Jerusalem tells a story. Our researchers turn over every stone, literally and figuratively, to uncover Jerusalem's fascinating history in all its expressions and cultures."
Every stone in Jerusalem tells a story. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mostly clear skies are expected tonight throughout the country, with temperatures reaching lows of around 22 degrees Celsius or 71 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, sunny skies and warm weather are expected as temperatures are set to climb and reach highs of around 34 degrees Celsius or 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our website, ILTV.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Lidar Greve-Lazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.